Right on.
Hello, Robert.
What's up, Raspberry? Are we live?
You're
We're live. From the compound. Sorry, not compound. The bunker. We're in the bunker. We're in the bunker. The compound's out there. Crash test, Tommy. Gooder day to use as well, I think. It's the Queen's English, Canadian style. Love it. Hope you're doing well up there in Canada. Let's see here. Yeah. So I just taught a wrist lock to a kids class. I gotta let that sink in for a second, which I've never done before. Things get crazy in Zoom classes during the apocalypse. So can we turn the fan off? David, can you shut the door for me? Sorry, we got too much noise and craziness going on. So I figured I could start with those two wrist locks. We could go deep. We could do a deep dive on wrist locks if we wanted to. If you guys have any questions or comments, whatever, you can throw them. Yeah, we're live on the Gracie Ohio Facebook page, but also on YouTube for the rest of the world. So yeah. If you got anything you want to see, post. Let us know. What's up, Zager? I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I think so. And I just realized, like, if anybody wants to support the channel, you are more than welcome to. You can use your little. If you go down to the bottom of.
Zager says thumbs up.
Yeah, awesome. If you go down to the bottom of the where it has the chat here on the live, if you touch on the little dollar sign next to the smiley face. There's a thing for super stickers, super chat. It's kind of cool. Anyway.
So Zager would fit right in around here.
Yes, you would.
You know, if there was a ninth child.
Yeah, that's right. We might have to steal your name. Actually, no.
We're
the
done.
shop's closed. We're done. 8's enough. But all of our kids start with Z's. So I'd love to hear. Yeah, Zager. I've never seen that name before, but I dig it. Of course, we have 8 Z's. How fast can you say them?
How fast can you say
it? Not very fast. I'm slow. I'm an old age. I'm getting nervous because you're sitting right here.
I'm going to forget their names?
No. I know their names.
What if I ask birthdays?
Birthdays, I might have a problem. I don't know. Robert says flower sweep. Clyburn says, hello.
Hello.
Hello to you too, sir. All right. I know that when McLean showed it to me. I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Flower sweep.
Oh, the flower sweep. Okay, all right. So you've never heard of the flower sweep? All right. Well, let's start with that since that's the one request we have, and then maybe I'll show you the dirty wrist locks I showed the kids class. I actually caught it on Zaven, so I was thinking about it. I don't know the last time we rolled. So flower sweep. All right. So the flower sweep is sort of it's kind of a combination of pendulum sweep, mostly pendulum sweep. If you guys are familiar with that, we actually covered that I think in the last video, didn't we?
I think so.
It's a combination of pendulum sweep. It really kind of is a pendulum sweep against a skilled opponent who's got a posture. So let's add you in the guard. Okay? And so what you got to do is manufacture the weight over top of you. Pendulum sweep is when you're like this, they're driving their weight into you. Maybe you have the arm wrap, maybe you don't. You're just off to the side. And then you're going to spin, and then you're going to sweep just like this, okay? So that works very well because you have an opponent who is giving you all their weight. They're trying to pin you on the floor. All right, so the flower sweep is kind of like its more educated cousin, I guess. All right, and what I mean by that is not that one is more technical than the other. It's just that one is typically going to be against a skilled opponent. One is typically used against a non-skilled opponent. It's not always the case because there are plenty of times with a skilled opponent, like we talked in our last video, where a skilled opponent will give you their weight because they make a value judgment. They decide, well, protecting my arm is more important than giving up the sweep, so to speak. So but in this situation, this is how we can sort of manufacture a pendulum sweep kind of against somebody who's got a posture, all right? So the flower sweep starts here. What I'm gonna do when I feel the opportunity's right, it's always best to move when your opponent, or it's always best to attack their base when they are in motion, okay? So if she starts to shift her base to it, that's the best time for me to go. Is when she starts to shift her base, it's the best time for me to break her posture, best time for me to attack her base, anything. All right, if she's just settled, it might not be the best time. What I'm doing is, if you guys can't see it, I'll switch here in just a second, but I'm grabbing the pant leg down here. So I'm kind of doing an illegal grip. I'm grabbing like this, all right? But who cares? So I'm gonna hold the sleeve here. Some people like to hold here. I typically, when I'm hands on the collar, I grab here. For this particular sweep, it might be best just to hold the sleeve right here, all right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reach down, I'm gonna grab the pants here like this, I'm gonna open the guard, and I'm gonna bridge. And when I bridge, my leg is gonna come up. I wanna knock her forward, like that. So this leg stays tight to the foot. I don't want her to be able to step her leg out. So this leg steps real tight to her foot. I'm gonna bridge my hips up, and I knock her forward. Once she's forward, I'm pulling this leg with me here. So let me
Slide.
So typically, you want to do that with the foot. You want to pull the leg out like this, and now you're going to knock her over with the top side leg. Stretch this up, and then you can come onto the mount position. So that's a very generic, basic way. It's a very, very powerful sweep. And it's not too difficult to do. I would say that it's going to be most difficult if you try, and I think this is probably the case for most sweeps, if you're direct about it. And I think that's the problem where most people put that one on the shelf, is because they grab here and they grab the pants. Well, what do they think is going to happen, right? I mean, it's almost like they're just, and if somebody does that, I'm going to relax. I'm going to keep my weight set back. I'm going to take my time. I'm not going to try to pass then, or I may break the grip first and then try to pass. So it's better to hit that sweep when your opponent is off, when they start to shift their base. Like maybe they want to stand up, so they start to shift a little bit and they start to bring their weight up a little bit like this. That's the time to hit them with that bridge. And it really is. I mean, you're not knocking them just with the leg. It's your hips that are driving up. So the whole lower body works as a unit. Okay, if that makes sense. How we doing?
Good. Mike, I feel like I'm butchering. Is it Clyburn?
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like I'm saying that wrong.
Yeah.
But he says yes for wrist locks.
Okay. All right.
Paul Watt over on YouTube says, I like to go for triangles when people try the under the leg pass, but they usually just posture up and smash past. Any tips? Zager would like to know what's your favorite way of breaking the closed guard. And Crash Test Tommy says, chokes for people with crappy grips. Due to years of bad BJJ death gripping. Asking for a friend.
Gotcha. Asking for a friend. I know plenty of those friends. Really quickly, as far as chokes for people who have bad grips, I would say anything that you're setting up that doesn't rely on gripping the collar, right? Now, sometimes even these may be difficult for your fingers. If you have really difficult, if you've got real hard, if you got some damage in your fingers, yeah, I mean, the reality is this: is that you never want to. I think this is a common problem. If you see there's even some younger guys that have, guys my age or even younger that have just absolutely like they can't make a full fist. Like and see these guys that like taping the crap out of their fingers, and it's like they look like a mummy. I don't know how you move like that. My biggest advice to you is don't be so committed on the grip, right? Especially with the gi. There's times that you're going to naturally, especially if you're a competitor, you compete a lot in the gi, but you never want to fully rely too much. There's a balance to be had there. Natural handles. Start using natural handles like grabbing the wrists. Okay, grabbing the hand, okay? Because that doesn't really, she breaks the grip, it's not gonna do much damage it's not gonna do any damage to my fingers. If I'm grabbing like this and she circles her hand, my fingers get caught up in there, now you're going to start ripping tendons and ligaments, and your fingers are going to get really, really gnarled. So never rely too heavily on your grips, okay? You want to have a good grip as a grappler, but, man, you know, I think, like, I'll give you an example. Let's go to the guard position real quick. Anytime I get to the guard like this, and I get my hand deep in the collar, and I know that the opponent doesn't like it, and they reach up to grab.
I'm not used to that.
At some point, you're going to get annoyed with this,
Right.
right? But if I held on for dear life, and you go to break that grab, and yeah, I may do some damage. My finger may get like, you know, okay, it's no big deal. Like I'll get the grip back, you know, and so I think as far as longevity is concerned, I think a lot of people just rely too heavily on the gi grips. Now, I'm primarily a gi. I train almost primarily in the gi, especially now. I still train no gi. I think it's important to do it every now and then. So, like 1 out of 10 times you train, take the gi off. You know, but you know, practicing strikes and things like that as well is always important. But just to get used to utilizing natural handles and catching things that are very, very common no-gi that aren't as common in the gi. And I'm not talking about ankle locks. That's probably the biggest one, or leg locks. That's probably the biggest one that people will say is more predominant in no-gi as opposed to gi. But that's just because of the common rule sets. It has nothing to do with how it's actually applied. Like you could apply heel hook in a gi just as easily. Maybe in some ways, you know, you might have even better setups with a gi than no gi. So not so much that, but like things like guillotine, right, or head and arm chokes, you know, arm triangles, Darce chokes, anaconda, you name it. Any of those, I think it's good to remind yourself on how to snatch those up, because you don't need material to do it. But I also do believe that the one thing the one thing that's traditional in our art, right? We don't necessarily bow to each other and that sort of thing, like, you know, count in Japanese or anything like that. The one very traditional thing about jiu-jitsu is the gi, but it has a purpose, and because clothing is an underutilized weapon in self-defense. People don't utilize it enough. Not every fight is going to be on the beach or in a UFC ring, right? Most of the time, somebody's going to have material on that can be used against them. So I think it's more practical without. So anyway, got off on a little bit of a rant. Let's go over some wrist locks. Sound good?
You didn't mention loop chokes though, because you've told me.
Loop chokes, yes. I think loop chokes are actually, they can be bad on the hand. A lot of it depends on the individual, but they don't require the same amount of strength, I don't think, like say, in a good cross collar choke, if you're sharp with it, it doesn't require a lot of strength either. As long as you can take the space away quickly, you don't need that much. You don't have to have a huge amount of strength to be able to finish it. Loop chokes are, I think, especially for folks that have, you know, weaker grip compared to their opponent, can still be very, very. I think they're really good. I think I've seen smaller players utilizing loop chokes against bigger players much better sometimes than the cross-collar variations, especially modified. Modified cross-collar choke against a bigger player is going to take some good wrist, good grip strength, especially on the secondary hand. So I think the standard cross-collar choke, if you learn how to set it up properly, is maybe one of the best chokes that we have, for sure. But this can be, the modified cross-collar choke can be a little muscly. I mean, it may take some, you know, you have to have a good grip compared to the strength of your opponent. Loop chokes, though, I don't think they require the same amount of grip strength. So, if I've seen technique that works very well against, you know, obviously chokes from the back can be really effective too. They're sort of loopy, but yeah, rear naked choke, guillotine all day. So,
Mike also wanted to say the sweep we just did.
mm-hmm.
Can you can we see that sweep transition into an armbar? If it works, that is, he says.
So yes, you can, right? So let's. So there's a couple and I really don't do this sweep very often, all right? But sometimes what'll happen is if she starts to shift and I go like this, she'll catch her base with the other arm. Because this one's stuck, yes. So, and then you'll pass this leg right here. Now I can continue the sweep, but if I have, that's sort of why there's kind of a balance between what's to be had. You know, this feels a little bit less aggressive than this, but I still like this grip, especially for an arm lock. So if I go here and I see her shift her base and I grab at the same time, so I'm moving my butt here. I off balance her, if she catches her base right there, I switch, I grab the wrist right away. Whether she falls or not doesn't matter, but there's your opportunity. So if she catches her base with that far side hand and you have the arm in deep enough, you can switch to the arm lock right there. If they pull it, then you can switch to the other side. So, man, I haven't done that in like 15 years. It's crazy. I put that one on the shelf. But I'm glad you asked. It kind of brought that one back up. I'm like, oh yeah, there is an arm lock there. Now, let's do some wrist locks. Okay. Your favorite thing. I caught this on Zaven the other day, and I decided I was going to show the juniors class today. So I'm showing like 7-year-olds how to wrist lock their brothers and sisters. Oh, I've turned to the dark side. Okay, so what Zaven was doing was being a little bit relaxed with his hand out here. He was blocking my hand and kind of, just kind of shadowing instead of being like this, okay? And sometimes this can be a little bit dangerous too. We'll go over a sneaky one there, but he was kind of just, it wasn't even out too far. It was just kind of here and kind of just, and I caught the hand real quick here. Boom, boom. So if I can go here, if I can catch the hand either way, whether it's this way, if I catch it quick and it's framed against my knee, I can finish very quickly here. Okay, so I like both hands on the outside of this one. I don't think it's necessary to do figure four. The other one that he showed was here. So maybe she wants to do a trap and roll, or she's just waiting. All right, I'm attacking and she's got her hand here. I'm gonna slide this knee up, and I'm gonna really quickly, I'm gonna slide this back because she's connected to me. When I block her ability, if I just do that, you see how the elbow goes down? Okay? But if I slide this knee up, I want to do a little voodoo here. I want her to think about her neck. I slide up and I move this back. So I move it quickly so I can cover the knuckles, and her wrist is already bent. This one comes here, and now we figure four here. Now, the other one is just when somebody's shadowing the arm here like this, is to catch the wrist here. That comes fast. But if you have just the hand, this is why we have to be a little sticky with this whatever you want to call this dog paw, because now it's not so easy, right? Now she doesn't want the arm to, but if I just see the hand here and the wrist is away from the elbow, I catch it here and I'm going to drop in. So this is a twisting wrist lock. I don't have to go very far. I'm compressing it down. So I lock it into my bicep. I'm going to come close here. So you'll see the shortness of the movement. If I do this, not a big deal. You can you can push my elbow, shrink your arm. So if I come here, now I'm going to bring it down towards her. I bring it close, okay? So that for her, if she tried to extend right now, you feel it's not as comfortable. Mm-hmm. And now I can, sorry, okay? All right, so that one comes on quick. There's others, but wrist locks are nice because you don't have to give up a lot of control. I think the common perception of wrist locks back in the day, before I started Jiu-Jitsu, wrist locks were like what you saw. What's his name? Steven Seagal pulling off on movies, like catch a punch and then and the guy would flip over, and like it was all crazy and nutty and pretty much impossible. But wrist locks, when you apply them, so a lot of the wrist locks in a lot of the martial arts that you see are very, very sensational. Especially the stuff from the standing position where you catch the flying punch and you flip them over. And stuff can't happen like that, right? But when you are able to isolate a human body and you isolate the limbs, right? Now, wrist locks are extremely valid. There are some applications for self-defense, especially when they're connected to you. So let's say a chest push. If she's going to push into my chest here, like just give me, yes. This for sure, right? Or anytime, and we've even seen this in jiu-jitsu competition. We would normally do this from the standing position, but those basic wrist locks can work in the gi or just when they're gripping here. I can also pop the wrist here like this. I forget what they call this one, cow hoof or something like that. I forget. There's a Portuguese name for it, but it's quick. It's a bend here, and then you collapse on it quickly. And I've seen those hit at the highest level of competition, right? They can really surprise people, but they're very low risk. So as far as like the attacker, right? I mean, the risk for sure on the defender. Like I've seen guys, there's one, I forget which year it was, but the Jacare, I forget his full name, but most of you guys who are into Jiu-Jitsu know what I'm talking about. He was just supposed to be on the last UFC. One of my favorites is he caught that very same one from the standing position. You see the guy backing up, and then he just drops to his knees screaming, you know? So they come on fast. So as a practitioner, when you're doing it, like the setup you can be quick with. Sometimes you have to be, but you have to be responsible as well and give your partner time to tap. Because with the wrist lock, you get to one point, you're like, okay, yeah, that's pretty tight. You take it a half inch further and they're excruciating pain because there's a lot of nerves running through the wrist and a whole lot of tiny bones and the ligaments and stuff. That's why I've seen, I think that wrist locks are way more able to, yeah. I've seen a lot of arms hyperextended and guys can keep fighting. When somebody's got a properly applied wrist lock and they go into it and they do, you know, people, it's a lot of pain, you know. I mean, people, that pulls people out of fights, right? So if you can pull them off, I mean, I think the control on the ground gives us a lot better opportunities for actually controlling somebody and isolating limbs and finishing them, because you can do that with a lot of control and they're not difficult. But from the standing position, there's certain things that can work when there's a lot of hooey out there. There's a whole lot of stuff that's just nonsense that would never work with a resisting opponent. It only works because you have somebody who just, I don't know. Yeah. They're like, yeah, we went into the fake martial arts a while back. I don't have to. Been there, done that. There's a whole lot of crap out there. A whole lot of stuff that doesn't work. So, what else we got?
So we still had Paul's question about triangles.
Okay.
He said he likes to go for them when people try the under the leg pass, but they usually just posture up and smash past. So he's looking for tips on that. And then Zager had asked about favorite ways of breaking the close guard.
Okay, so I'll try to answer both of those quickly. So I may have to borrow the young man for this one, but I'm going to see if you can do this. So the basic stack pass, all right, and the triangle that you're going for, all right. If we're here like this and the person gets underneath like this and they reach for the collar, okay. So I believe this is what he's talking about. Number one, I need to know whether I have this arm or not. So if I have the arm, I have a shot at the triangle, okay? Now, two, I need to recognize early on when this starts to happen. When she starts to come underneath like this, I don't want her to get the hand on the collar, okay? So I approach this hand on the collar just like I would approach this punching my face, okay? I don't want either one of those. So right away, if I recognize there's a time, like she's digging underneath here like this, and it's time for me to go for the triangle, I'm gonna be here. And not just with my arm, but with my body, okay? So if she starts to stack, I get the triangle position, she starts to stack, I walk my shoulders a little bit. And then I'm gonna adjust, and then I'm gonna start working. The next thing I wanna do is get the head down. So once I block this, now I'm gonna start, so because for the most part, where people mess up here is they adjust too early. And they allow this hand to get in the collar, and they start to do this. Well, this is where my legs are gonna get blown, because if they're a much bigger person, they're gonna push their chest in and blow out of it. So if I recognize, and we talked a little bit about this in our Triangle Mastery video a few weeks ago, all right, is shutting down that first attempt. So you notice how I extended my body. That's first, okay? I block here and extend my body, okay? Now I'm gonna adjust. Then I'll pull the head, and then I'll adjust a little bit more, and then I'll adjust a little bit more. If she really drives forward, I'm gonna start walking my shoulders away. So she starts losing that structure and falling forward. So she's never allowed to just fold me up, okay? What I don't want my hips to come up over top of my neck. That's where it's dangerous, and that's where you're gonna lose the triangle. So hopefully those tips help a little bit. I am gonna put out a Triangle Mastery DVD very soon, so I'll cover all of those things in not DVD. That's like
10 years ago.
That's like 10 years ago, right? Yeah. Nobody does DVDs anymore. Online tutorial, whatever. You guys know what I'm saying. My favorite way of opening the guard. That was Zager's question. Okay, here it is. Can you put me in the guard? This is my favorite way of opening the guard. What? What? What's so funny?
You're just gonna wait?
I am.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be annoying.
Mm-hmm. You're gonna wait for me to do something.
Yes.
aren't
Yes, I am. My favorite way to open the guard is to do nothing. I shouldn't say nothing. I'm being active. I'm blocking. I don't want her to have what she wants. The vast majority of players, I would say that lower white belts are probably excluded from this because that once they have you in the guard, they're just like, I got the black belt in the guard. I can't let go. I gotta hold on to him. Don't let go. Right? So against white belts, sometimes I have to force the guard open. Okay? And my favorite way to do that is just like this, a frame, and I use my hips, my arch my back here to frame. So it's not arm strength. It's my posture. Okay? So I have my knees a little bit close together here. I make a frame right here. Okay? Hold the leg. Promise me it's important. Or I promise you. Promise me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you get your hand slapped.
Yes, you're gonna get your hand slapped, you're gonna get triangled. That was also in the video. You can backtrack, go look at the Triangle Mastery video. So I create a frame here, and I'm gonna put pressure, but it's my hips. Okay, I'm arching my back into the legs here. Now there's a number of ways you can do that, all utilizing the hips. You can do it like this. I learned this early on, like grabbing here, putting the knee out, knee in the middle, move back, okay? I don't like all that movement anymore, okay? I'm very boring. The older I get now, I just rob them of what they want in the closed guard, sorry. Or they get fatigued because I've got the quarantine 15 hanging around my belly, and then they get tired, then they open up the guard. So yeah, maybe that's what I need to do. I just need to gain like 15 more pounds. Nobody will be able to close their guard. That'll be my best guard break. Or I can just block what they want. So most people have a sequence. Once they get the closed guard, they're like, okay, I'm in the guard. I'm gonna get my hand in the collar. Get your hand in the collar. Ah, didn't work. All right. Then next thing they do is like, oh, I'm gonna get the arm across, and I'm gonna pull, and no, didn't work. Okay, and I shut that down. Typically, they have one or two things they try before they do what? They say, oh, this stuff isn't working. They're gonna open, and now I can start to pass. Because here's the thing. At the end of the day, and I know that's a boring cop-out answer to your question. Sorry, Zig, but at the end of the day, people, they get impatient. And if you're more patient than them in a position, most people feel like, okay, I'm in the guard, I have to pass. Well, not necessarily, not yet, right? You need to stay safe. That's your number one job. So I want to protect my neck, my arms, my base. I want to wait on the right opportunity. So I don't need to rush anything. Okay, now if the person stops and stares at me, okay, all right, well, we don't want to stare at each other all day. I am in the more dominant position. It's time for me to move forward. So then I would, but I would start low, okay? I would start very simple and try to break the guard there. If not, I may have to stand to break the guard. But for the most part, that's it. I'm boring. I'm old.
Yeah. Everybody on Facebook knows you too well. They all knew that was coming.
Yes, of course they know. Of course, Mike Casey knows. I was watching your turtle stuff earlier, Michael. Nice. All right. What time we got?
We are at 6:29.
Holy smokes! One more question. What else we got? I got one more thing to cover.
Not a question, but Denzer says, been watching your videos for a while, really would like to give BJJ a try. I like the mindset that most who do it have. Been missing that balance in my life. You
will love it, absolutely. I mean, obviously, I mean, I'm biased, but I think it really is. You know, I was talking to my friend Mike Casey. We were just talking about this the other day. You know, he's a school owner. He owns Gracie, New York, well, in the Bronx, GracieNY.com. Look him up. But, you know, it's not just the martial art, right? It's not just the self-defense. It is the best self-defense on the planet. But that's not what keeps people coming back. That's not what, like, there's just so much more to it. And he's a lot more eloquent at explaining what more there is to it. But you almost have to experience it. When you slap hands and you bump fists with somebody, it's not just a training partner. It's not like sharing weights at the gym, right? My turn, can I borrow those? You know, are you done with that? Right? It's a totally different experience. You are lending your body to another person to learn this very serious. It's not a sport. It's a deadly art, right? You are lending your body to them. You shake hands and you bump fists, or however you guys greet, bow, whatever. Before you train, there's an immense amount of trust that you're putting into this individual. You're putting your life into their hands so that they can train this martial art, this very deadly thing, and you can as well. And you're just that type of trust. I mean, my friend Maurice says it best. It's like it's a shared vulnerability, right? We are sharing this vulnerability. Like, I'm allowing you to I'm trusting you that you will let go when I do this, right? Or you'll give me time to do this, to tap out. And you develop a bond with somebody when you have this experience over and over. Not just the closeness and the trust, but just, I mean, man, there's just so much that comes along with this training that opens itself up. My friend Vince, when he got his black belt, he gave a speech, and I wish we would have recorded the speech, but basically what he says, it's like he likened Jiu-Jitsu to, do you remember this? Were you there for this?
Probably.
So he likened the Jiu-Jitsu to the like Russian nesting dolls. Do you know what those are?
Yes, I remember this.
It was a great speach. I wish I could have recorded this. I wish I had this to share with you guys, but because I'm going to butcher it. I'm terrible at it. But, you know, what he was saying was like, what I thought Jiu-Jitsu was this, right? It was this doll. But then you open it up, and there's this layer. There's something else in there. There's friendships, and he had for each layer that he opened up, there was something else, like shared trust, friendship, loyalty, you know, all these things that were built up, and you develop lifelong friendships through this stuff. I mean, and you can do it quickly. I mean, you know, I've trained with people for 6-8 months, and they've had to move on with their lives, but I have a connection with this person that I will have the rest of my life, and it's crazy. You know, it's like I think it was Saulo Romero had another quote too that I loved it, and he may have stolen it from someone else as well. But it's like you have the family that you're born to, and you have the family that you choose. Well, the family you're born to, you don't have a choice. Like that, they're your family, right? But the family you choose, in some ways, sometimes that bond is even greater because it's your choice. You brought them into your group, your family, and that's the way I look at all my students. I mean, we have an amazing environment in our academy. I'm so thankful for it. I'll end with that because I think that's I'm getting too sappy. But just keep in mind too, guys, if you I'm trying to figure out this YouTube thing, but I know that there's ways of supporting the YouTube, but we don't have Patreon set up or anything like that. But they do have the little money sign down there if you guys want to super sticker, super chat. I'm not sure. Just for fun, I want to try it myself. I want to spend a couple dollars to see how it works. But you guys can support the channel that way, or you can go online to our. I hope you guys are enjoying this. This is obviously mostly for our students, but really for everybody out there who's stuck at home and doesn't have jiu-jitsu. Or doesn't have everybody somebody to squeeze their necks time. So, but yeah, hope everybody's doing well out there. And what was I going to mention?
The store.
The online store. T-shirts, swag, all that stuff. GracieOhio.com. We've got a store up there finally. But I can't wait to get back on the mat with all of you guys. I think it's coming fairly soon. It'll be modified, I'm sure, at the beginning, but we're gonna get back at this jiu-jitsu, and yeah, this has been
You
really
get to
good.
train with somebody other than me.
She hates training with me.
Oh, stop it.
All right, that's it. I think we're done. We good?
We're good.
All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. All right, have a great night. Can you turn us off there, Zaven? He's missing his cue.
I got it.
Take care.
Where's the...